Now, as soon as you say quadruple, everybody is going to clown you. And honestly, it does sound like a bit of fan fiction. But here's why I'm talking about it. Because even some of the greatest teams don't manage to win the quadruple, and it's usually for the same type of reasons. So no, today isn't Arsenal going to win the quadruple, and here's exactly why. Today is asking ourselves, what normally kills any team's quadruple dream? And does Arsenal have those answers? So even if the title might suggest it, no, I'm not drinking Arteta's KoolAid. I'm simply just looking at the ingredients. Are they legit? So let's start with this grounding fact. No English team in history of the Premier League era has won all four major competitions, that being the Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup, and the League Cup. And there's a reason for it. It's practically impossible. So if your take is that a quadruple is a dream, you're not being negative. It's historically accurate. But because it's a dream, that doesn't mean it's impossible, does it? And with this question of can Arsenal win the quadruple, I put out a poll on Instagram and on X asking you guys, how many trophies do you think Arsenal can win this season? On Instagram, over half of you said that Arsenal could at least do the treble, with majority actually voting that Arsenal could do the quadruple. And that left the remainder thinking that Arsenal could actually just do one trophy, and even some thinking that Arsenal could even leave empty-handed. But what it does mean is that you need absolutely everything. You need a tremendous amount of quality in your team. You need very good squad depth. You need your players to be healthy and not getting injured. You definitely need a slice of luck. But most importantly, you need killer instinct. But just quickly, if you guys are new around here, be sure to hit subscribe to join MB United. And as I'm going along in the video, comment down below. Do you think Arsenal can actually address all of these quadruple killers that have killed the great teams in the past? Or do you simply think Arsenal can't do it? Let me know below. So now let's actually look at what's killed the great teams in the past. Because when we look at the greatest English teams of the last 10 to 15 years, and these teams were actually capable of winning the quadruple, all of their quadruple hopes died in one of these three ways. It was either 1, a lapse in concentration defensively in the Champions League, 2, not keeping performances high enough when it came to domestic trophies such as the FA or the Carabao Cup, and number 3, being caught out by the finest of margins in the Premier League, which saw them not win the Premier League trophy at the end of the season. And with these 3 quadruple killers, it forms the perfect 3 chapters for this video. So let's take a look into chapter 1. The one defensive lapse in Europe. And for this, our case study is Man City versus Spurs in the 2019 Champions League quarterfinal. In the first leg, City lost 1-0 away at Spurs. But in the second leg is where we really started to see that one lapse of judgment, that one lapse of concentration that mattered the most for City. Now, the second leg ended 4-3 to Manchester City, but because of that first goal that they conceded in the second leg, Tottenham went through to the semi-finals on away goal. But if we zoom in and actually look at what happened during the game, you can see exactly how City lost this quarterfinal tie. Son's second goal came from a Man City defensive error in the 10th minute, a lack of composure and a lack of control in the box. And Tottenham's third goal came from a set piece, showing how yet again fine margins like corners and throw-ins and so on can actually affect the game. And this time meant City were knocked out on away goals. And City thought they'd even won it late. Sterling puts it in, the stadium erupts, but then the goal is ruled out because of offside. And that's the Champions League. 90 minutes where there were defensive errors and lack of composure wiped away 9 months of hard work. So when people say, why can't these great teams win every single trophy? This is why. The Champions League punishes moments. So this isn't even a story about how City just simply weren't good enough. They were fantastic the entire season, but in certain moments and in certain game states, they were punished in the Champions League. And if you compare this to the current Arsenal team, you can see that in the Champions League, we are becoming more and more ruthless as the season goes on. But we'll save that for later. Now let's take a look at our second case study. Man City away at Wigan Athletic, losing in the FA Cup 5th round. And this is where the beauty of domestic football actually starts to affect the biggest of teams. And this case study is a perfect example as to why quality isn't enough to get you the quadruple. City go down to 10 men after Delph had a very reckless challenge and got himself a red card. They still dominated, but Wigan hit them late because a certain man was on fire. Will Grigg scored the only goal of the tie as the Latics knocked out the bookies' favourites and honestly sent absolute shockwaves throughout the English football pyramid. Quick note, I was watching the game back and I had no idea Dan Burn was playing that game. Crazy. So if you wonder why certain players like maybe Gyökeres or Martinelli might not be getting rested in the FA Cup, it's because even though City had 29 shots and 83% possession, they still lost the game. And that's the oldest lesson in football. You can have all the ball you want, but if you don't score, you don't win the game. And in this case, they don't get the trophy. And our third case study, why fine margins in the Premier League matter so much. In 21-22, Liverpool were damn near flawless. They won their final game, but still fell short, getting 92 points and not winning the Premier League title is a tough pill to swallow. And sometimes the title can be decided by one particular draw in October that nobody remembers. See, you don't even know what I'm talking about. Now, whether it's the 2-2 draw against Brighton, drawing against Tottenham after going to 10 men, or maybe the emphatic 3-3 draw against Brentford, the fact still remains the same. It's these small margins in the Premier League that can cost them all the difference come May. Arsenal saw this in 23-24, where they went on that fantastic run, winning 16 games out of 18 games in January, but still falling short of winning the Premier League. And that's why it means that even if Arsenal are brilliant, if Arsenal are topping all the charts, consistency and fine margins tell the story come the end of the season. And those margins can be brutal. But you know what? Let's add another case study. Let's add Man City's treble-winning team, winning the Premier League, FA Cup and the Champions League, but getting knocked out of the EFL Cup away to Southampton, losing 2-0. Because in this tie, they still played Julian Alvarez, João Cancelo, Phil Foden, Ilkay Gundogan, but it still wasn't enough to get them the win. Now, despite having all of those star-studded names on the team sheet, the overall performance was poor. Now, some might say Ortega had his first start of the season in that game and wasn't sharp, wasn't quite to the level of the rest of the team, and that's why they lost. But this further emphasizes that your entire team, your entire squad needs to be fresh. They need to be playing. You need to be rotating as you go along the season. But that's enough history. What does this actually mean for Arsenal? And most importantly, out of all four of those case studies, do Arsenal have the traits to survive those traps? This is where Chelsea comes in. Wait, Chelsea? I thought this was an Arsenal video. Now, Chelsea wasn't the whole story saying this is why Arsenal are going to win the quadruple, but it was evidence that Arsenal can do what it takes. Because in that time, no matter what people say, Arsenal were boring, Arsenal lacked this, Arsenal lacked that, what Arsenal did in that game was control the game. They squeezed the life out of Chelsea and made it so that the only chances they got were long shots outside of the box. And that's why it felt boring. Boring was the point. Already being ahead from the first leg away from home, the second leg at home doesn't need to be star-studded with 5 or 6 goals and fluid attacking play. The second leg needs to guarantee your spot in the final. So you don't have to be amazing. You don't have to listen to the likes of Gary Neville, who said that Arsenal needed to do more, or Peter Drury, who said that Arsenal have clung on once they got the winner. Because if you want chaos in these types of games, just go watch a UFC or another sport. Simply put, Arsenal did whatever it took to book their place in the final of the Carabao Cup. And they did that. Now, with that being said, if Arsenal's quadruple dream dies, I personally think it'll be one of these 3 reasons. Number 1, and probably the biggest one, injuries and squad fitness. And this is because we've already seen big game player Mikel Merino be ruled out for injury until at least May. Not to mention Saka, Odegaard, and even Calafiori being out injured for a couple games. When you're fighting on all fronts, you're no longer rotating just for the sake of vibes. You're rotating to survive and keep fighting, to live another day. The second reason is that March to May schedule. Because I know everyone thought the December period would be the real telltale story of how Arsenal can win the league or can't win the league. Because if Arsenal can keep these high-level performances and consistency in their games from February and March on to April, the league may already be wrapped up with a month to spare. Did you see what I did there? No? Yes? No? And number 3, one of the most biggest but subliminal reasons as to why Arsenal may or may not win the quadruple. And it's staying switched on every 3 days. And that is how the greatest of teams manage to lose their quadruple hopes. City versus Spurs in the Champions League, a single moment of a defensive lapse, and they lost the tie. City against Wigan in the FA Cup, moments where they weren't clinical, moments where they got caught on the break, knocked them out of the cup. And even Liverpool, drawing 2-2 to Spurs, where they got a red card. If they had managed to stay disciplined, they had managed to stay switched on and focused, they might not have drawn that game. So Arsenal's biggest challenge isn't whether or not they have the talent to win the quadruple, but instead, it's about endurance and concentration. And that is what makes or breaks history. And this feeds in perfectly as to why the Carabao Cup final on March 22nd is huge for Arsenal. This final will tell us, will Arsenal have enough to keep a high-level performance and win the Carabao Cup either days after or days before they play in another tournament? And this is why I like a lot of this stuff I'm hearing around the Arsenal players and coaches' mentality. And even Martin Odegaard has been quoted to say the exact same thing. That is the aim for this season, to win every single game, every tournament, and every trophy on offer. And yes, even though mindset doesn't win trophies, it definitely matters, because you can't win multiple competitions while subconsciously thinking we must really win the Premier League or we must really win the Champions League. You need to target everything. So ultimately, where am I at? Do I think Arsenal can win the quadruple, I think it's a dream. I think if Arsenal do everything that they need to do and luck is on our side, then we have a shot. However, I think most likely we'll see a double this season. I personally think Arsenal can win a double. That is, of course, if injuries don't spiral. I think a treble is definitely possible if Arsenal win the Carabao Cup March 22nd. That leaves the Premier League, the Champions League, and the FA Cup. And I think picking up 2 of those 3 trophies on offer is definitely possible for this team. And the quadruple is still a dream. No English team has ever done it before. And with the way games are moving in the modern era, the game is designed to stop you from winning all 4 competitions. However, don't listen to what the media says. Don't listen to any pundits that already don't like Arsenal. Arsenal and their fans aren't deluded for thinking they have a shot at doing the quadruple. Because if the Premier League and the Champions League form wasn't enough, that semi-final against Chelsea told us everything we needed to know about this team. There's cup mode levels of control that Arsenal can produce in a game. We can break the patterns, and there's actually maturity in this Arsenal team that saw them break their semi-final curse. And that is the upgrade. The small margins in the league of Arsenal being dominant and being damn near the best team in Europe when it comes to set pieces could tell the tale come May. You mix those two with Arsenal's ruthlessness and killer instinct in the Champions League, it doesn't seem too much of a pipe dream. And as I said at the start of the video, I'm not drinking Arteta's Kool-Aid. But now I've had a look at the label, the ingredients start to make sense. If Arsenal beat Man City in the final, this is where the dream really starts to get legs and it actually starts to seem more and more of a reality. But if Arsenal lose, then you can't do the quadruple because you've already lost 1 out of 4. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to absolutely smash the like button and also click that hype button. It's something I just found out about. I think that's new. I might actually be an unk. But essentially, if you hype this video, it will find more and more football and Arsenal fans like yourself. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to hit subscribe and join MB United, this host of Arsenal and football lovers. Click the notification bell so you know exactly when I upload. I'll be uploading once a week, every single Sunday, but soon we'll be uploading twice a week. And more as the season goes on, we'll be looking into Arsenal and their chances of winning every single trophy, despite what the media says. And if anyone is still screaming Arsenal are boring, they're the most boring winners to do it, just remember this: medals and trophies don't care whether your football is boring or exciting. What matters is who wins them.